points of interest from OpenStreetMap, this shouldn't be like really hard, right? It's a short one. And for a bit of context, I first would like to know who here has worked with points of interest in any ministry on the workers. Awesome. I think you're everyone from this conference. And who downloaded this from OpenStreetMap? Almost everyone. Cool. So this shouldn't be really hard. I'm just reiterating everything you already know. Like how do you get points of interest? You open data in HJS or GeoFabric website, download the shapefile or a geo package or CSV or whatever, filter it by type, by region, and here you are. You got points of interest from OpenStreetMap. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Except, yeah, you know, OpenStreetMap is not easy. There is always something. OSM is not the standard model we've all got used to. It's not simple features. It's not like curated by a business. Anything can happen. So I have like a 13-year experience in putting things into OpenStreetMap and getting them from that. And especially working on point of interest and address data. And I know that's not simple, and I show you how it is not simple over the next 20 minutes. So, getting the data from OpenStreetMap, we've like perfected that in the past 10 years. There are multiple means. You can do that from a command line. Just download PDF file and use OSM, or you can do it from yeah, sure. Or do it on the web with Overpass Turbo. Just enter a filter query and you get the point. Even from Qt.js, there is quick OSM plugin, filter it, you get your points of interest in Qt.js and do anything with it. But let's start with filtering. Like, what do you need? What kind of type? Restaurants, like waste baskets, trees, like shops? How do you find the type? So let me start with a bit of basics. How OpenStreetMap is structured. Basically, if not to like over complexify anything, it has points, lines, polygons. These are just geometry without like attributes, just points, lines, it doesn't mean anything. So every object from OpenStreetMap has tags. Tags are basically two random strings attached to geometry. It can be anything, but over the years, the community has settled on some commonly used tags, like natural tree for trees, or building school for a school building. Pretty easy, right? There's OpenStreetMap wiki with two like 100-mile long pages listing most commonly used values, so you'll be fine. Thing is, these are two random strings. There is no validation in the database. You can easily have a point street or a polygon traffic sign, anything in the database. But you won't like see them because you're filtering. It's just a possibility. It doesn't really happen because people tend to use common use text to see their work on the map. So, random strings. How do you filter by type? Thing is, usually there is one-to-one like method. Like, if you want a tree, you choose natural equals tree. But then sometimes mappers don't agree with common use text and use different ones. So some features, like notary offices or bus stops, have multiple tags. So you have to filter by multiple if you want to get bus stops from there. Sometimes the real world kicks in. And in real world, there is no like a strong separation between similar types, like convenience stores and supermarkets. Where is the line? Like, every mapper thinks differently. Sometimes it's the size, sometimes it's presence of a person behind the counter, or using trays for maybe choosing things. It's different. for every country. You have to be mindful of how the real world works and not rely on just tag values. And difference between pubs, bars, restaurants, and cafes. McDonald's calls themselves a restaurant, while it's obviously a fast food chain. So what tag do you use? Real world is not simple. In proprietary datasets, you get a list of like 300-400 predefined types, and you know what to expect. In OpenStreetMap, you got random strings all over. So you have to study OSM wiki to know what you're filtering for. Then, polygons. The main difference of OpenStreetMap from all the proprietary data is the presence of polygonal points of interest, polygonal addresses, polygonal everything. These are the same tags and points and polygons. When I queried all schools in Tallinn in Estonia, I got like 8 points and 90 polygons. You can expect one of these. And like, how hard can it be? We just choose a center point for a polygon and proceed as usual, right? And yeah, it's a possibility, but the thing is, the real world kicks in. The polygon for a school is not exactly a school, it's a school territory, a school area. So for example, if you want to route somebody to a school, you need to know how to find the main building, the entrance, the gate in the school. So all these like things from like secondary attributes. And if you're really good in OpenStreetMap or do a lot of searching, then you know this is from OpenStreetMap wiki. You don't have to photograph it. Yeah. Again, that's like the real world. In real world, there are no points. If you project everything on 2D plane, trees are polygons, benches are polygons, even streets are polygons. So it's closer to real world, but also harder to use. Because if we had all the streets as polygons, routing will be very hard. Then, points of interest don't always have one type. You can make a classification of 1,000 types and still something will fall through. The most common example, fuel stations. Usually, it's not just fuel station. It is also a shop, a cafe, car wash, and other things. All manned by the same 2 people behind the counter. How do you map that? In case of fuel station, it's pretty simple because it is all spread geographically and often has different opening hours and stuff. So a point for fuel station, a point for car wash, a point for store, different thing, pretty fine. Sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes it's a single venue when you can cut keys, repair shoes, replace batteries, stuff like that. All in a single place, manned by one person with the same opening hours. It should be one point. What do you do? Some proprietary datasets have like a list of types you can associate. So multiple types is easy. Not OpenStreetMap, of course. In OpenStreetMap, you can have one main type, one key, one value for each key. What happens with these? The easiest thing that I do too, I choose one. So I made this as a key category. So when you're looking for shoemakers for shoe repair, you also have to know that often key cutters also repair shoes, and vice versa. So you have to filter for multiple things. Sometimes kiosks or convenience stores have cafes, but we don't like map them. We just it's implied. So you have to know these things happen. But also there are other things. Sometimes we want to add all types. It's a really common thing in OpenStreetMap having like a freestanding building and a supermarket tag on that. Because keys are different, so why not? Or school area and the fence. Fence is a linear feature, school area is a polygon, but they're on the same object in OpenStreetMap. Because why not? Different keys. Or you can have multiple values separated by semicolon. This is like nobody expects that. But it is in the database. I found like 300, like not exactly this, but different like different options for it with semicolons. You have to know that. That's the real world. It's not easily classifiable. OpenStreetMap classification is a mess because real world doesn't fall into any classification. So key values not regulated allow for everything. I think it's bad for type classification, but it's really great for attributes because on OpenStreetMap, unlike proprietary datasets, which give you like a table, columns and rows, predefined set of columns. In OpenStreetMap you can add anything. Names in every language of the world. Alternative names, old names, local names, anything. OpenStreetMap has like the most complex format of all, allows for like last Wednesday of the month. Easy. Open on Thursday in December, open on the Thursdays. Why not? In OpenStreetMap, open hours, anything is possible. Phones, websites, Facebook, Instagram, operator, payment with cash, with cards, Visa and MasterCard only, anything is possible on OpenStreetMap. Even more, like wheelchair access. I think like OpenStreetMap is the only data set in the world, global one, that has wheelchair access on the global scale with hundreds of thousands of options. So yeah, you have no option but to use OpenStreetMap, and it's really good. It has 3 values per wheelchairs, yes, no, limited, but the real world kicks in. So what do these mean? Like wheelchair access is usually mapped by people. We have to remember that OpenStreetMap is made by people, not by robots like corporate datasets. And people have different ideas, and these people usually don't use wheelchairs. So is it not, is it limited? The options in the real world are limitless. I don't know if it's possible to use this to enter how it's meant to OpenStreetMap. I haven't checked. But different people have different opinions. So, attributes, search the wiki, check for overpass turbo. OpenStreetMap will surprise you with what you can find in it. Because people are really thorough in OpenStreetMap. Addresses is like the entire topic itself. Thing is, proprietary datasets usually have addresses for each point of interest. In OpenStreetMap, it is like 1 in 4. So 3/3 of points of interest don't have addresses. You have to take the addresses from other sources. Like from OpenStreetMap. How hard can it be? Just find nearest address point. No, OpenStreetMap has polygons. So there are points and building polygons, multiple address points in a single building, stuff like that. Reverse geocoding is really hard, and it's the topic of my talk and FOSDEM 3 years ago. I really recommend seeing that. But basically, you will have to need a reverse geocoder and not an API, because you will get banned in 1 minute. Because usually your work is hundreds of thousands of points of interest. You have to set up your own. Yeah, that's addresses. But OpenStreetMap has floors, like 1 in 10 points of interest have also floor marked, and given like most of the points of interest and one floor building, that's a really good amount. And from all of that, proprietary really sounds simpler, right? Is it also better? Well, yeah, no. Don't shake your head. Proprietary. At one of my past jobs, I was tasked with comparing OpenStreetMap to like 3 different proprietary data sets. And if you look at coverage, you don't have to run a single query. Just by numbers, proprietary data sets on average are 20 times bigger than OpenStreetMap. There's no comparison. Because OpenStreetMap is collected by people. So if you have a mapper living there, points of interest are good. Alright. If you don't, like in old towns or cities, nobody lives there. But there are plenty of tourists who need points of interest. So, and they don't have it because there are either no points of interest in city centers or there are 10 years obsolete. Depends on the type. Shops and restaurants, mostly not in city, and like beauty salons, warehouses, no. You have to look for it. OpenStreetMap data is very local, very relevant to area. So the coverage of proprietary sets is better because they take it from registers, from yellow pages, and if you look at Google Maps, this is Google Maps for area I lived in. So many points of interest. The coverage is amazing. There is nothing in OpenStreetMap. I live there. I know all of this is a lie. There are 2 correct points of interest. Everything else is not there. No cosmetics store. No clothing store there. Nothing. You come there, just residential buildings is nothing. Google took this from business register. People tend to register all kinds of weird things. In OpenStreetMap, the ruling principle is truth on the ground. You map what you see. So you come there, you map areas. I mapped that area using my app. Every door, I like in a couple of days mapped all the 1,000 shops, amenities, offices around. So in that area, coverage of OpenStreetMap is perfect. But not in the neighboring ones because I haven't been there. OpenStreetMap is very local. You have to do your research before you use the data. So for the quality, coverage may be better than commercial, but quality of OpenStreetMap is unmatched. Positional quality is perfect. In proprietary, points can be all over. Neighboring buildings, roads, OpenStreetMap is right there. Attributes are all hand-checked because real people who have been there mapped the thing. Change the quality of OpenStreetMap is the best. I will skip the part about free and open source software. It's not relevant to this conference. But I do what I can to make the coverage of OSM better. Every door, I recommend you setting it up. It's an app to collect every point of interest. Yeah. So, to reiterate, OpenStreetMap points and polygons. Don't forget about polygons. They might mean a different thing. Classification is weird. As in real world, you will need reverse geocoding. It's not easy. Look up my frozen talk. Coverage lacks. But OSM gets better with time, and you will get better at processing points of interest with experience. That's all. Thank you.